Well, another week in Westminster, and I suspect that those of you watching the news will have been bemused by what was going on. I can assure you that as an MP, I was also suitably bemused by the behaviour of some of my colleagues. I'm very pleased that the Prime Minister won that vote of confidence, but I'm also very disappointed that we had that vote of confidence, especially in view of the fact that the following day, the Prime Minister was going to an EU Council meeting. I don't think he gives any credibility to the Prime Minister acting on behalf of this country when she's faced with a confidence vote by her own party before going to the European Council. It makes her look weak, it makes the country look shambolic, and I don't think it helps the British national interest. And I am concerned that colleagues felt that that was a way of serving this country rather than actually serving their own interests. I'm not sure what those 117 people who voted against the Prime Minister were hoping to achieve, but it certainly hasn't helped our negotiating position on what is a very, very difficult issue in terms of Brexit. So, whilst I'm pleased that the Prime Minister survived this challenge, I do think that both the Prime Minister, the government, and indeed the country has been weakened by what was a self-indulgent attempt at a coup. And I generally do think that those colleagues who were of the view that having a leadership challenge at this point was a good idea, I do think that they should be explaining themselves to members of the party and to members of the public who feel that the Prime Minister, under incredibly difficult circumstances, is trying her best and not getting the support of the parliamentary party at this point of time is problematic, to say the least. As for Brexit, it'll carry on, I'm afraid, being in the news. We're not going to have a vote on the issue now until the new year. And whilst I was very happy to support the Prime Minister, I do recognise that the deal that she wants to put through the House of Commons has real difficulties attached to it. And I'm increasingly clear that the concept of a no-deal Brexit is now something which will simply not happen. Because what the vote did show, the vote of confidence in the Prime Minister did show very clearly, is that at most around 100 MPs in the House of Commons are in favour of a no-deal Brexit. And it simply means, therefore, that that outcome will not happen. So, therefore, people who do feel passionately about Brexit and do feel that we should be leaving the European Union, they need to ask themselves very clearly, are they willing to push for a no-deal Brexit that will not happen because of the numbers in the House of Commons, or do they want to have a compromise? And I think that's a question for people to ponder over the Christmas period. My own preference, as people are aware, is to put the issue back to the people because of the clear fact that the Prime Minister's agreement does not match the promises made in 2016. Now, I don't think that's a failure on behalf of the Prime Minister. I don't think that the promises made in 2016 were ever going to be deliverable. But I do think that the difference between what was promised and what the Prime Minister is now offering is so significant that at the very least, the decision as to whether we endorse this deal or not should be given to the people rather than to the squabbling House of Commons. Now, enough about Brexit. Just to look forward towards Christmas, I was very pleased last night to be at the Gobaith St David's Hospice carol service in Llandudno. I think that's really when Christmas kicks off as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, I do have to go back to London next week, but again last night it was a really good service, and I thought that Maelgwyn and Ysgol Sior contributed magnificently to the event, and I do hope that the fundraising efforts for both Gobaith and St David's Hospice was significant. I know how proud constituents are of both organisations, and I think it is quite fitting that for many people that carol service is the start of Christmas for many in Llandudno. So again, congratulations to everybody who was involved, and I do hope that the fundraising effort was worthwhile. I'd also like to highlight the fact that I was very pleased to welcome two of my Conservative councillors, Aldine and Adele, down from Llanrwst to London early in the week, and they wanted specifically to come into the House of Commons to see the Church of St Mary's of the Undercroft, and they were suitably impressed. It really is quite a remarkable part of the House of Commons. It's a church which dates back to the 16th century, it's remarkably pretty, and you feel as if you've just moved from the 21st century to another age when you walk down into the bowels of Westminster to see the church. So I was very pleased to welcome the two of them. I know how hard they work in Llanrwst, and it was fantastic to welcome them down to Westminster. And if anybody listening to this is in London and would like to come into the House of Commons and have a tour and indeed see some of the special sites which are usually restricted to those who are around with their MP, then by all means contact my office. I'd be delighted to welcome you. And the final point I'd like to make on a serious note is that whilst Bangor University and Bangor itself is not in my constituency, it is obviously the most important university serving North Wales, and there is a real threat at the moment to their chemistry course. And I think we should take that very seriously, because in effect, if we lose the chemistry course from Bangor, we're almost finding ourselves in a situation where there are very, very few STEM subjects being taught at universities north of the M4. And I think that's problematic for us here in Wales, and indeed especially problematic for us here in North Wales. Because in effect what we're doing is we're forcing young people to choose between studying locally or moving away. Now of course if people want to move away to study, that's all well and good, but that does carry the risk that they don't come back. There's plenty of evidence that shows where you have very good chemistry, physics, science courses in universities within a locality, that does contribute to economic development. So I'll be very pleased to be meeting with members of the chemistry department in Bangor on Monday morning, because I think we should all be concerned, not just the MP for Arfon, but I think we should all, who care about the future of North Wales and the economic prosperity of North Wales, we should all care about the potential loss of a STEM subject from Bangor University. Whilst I was a Wales Office Minister, I kicked off the concept of a North Wales growth deal. That has now secured over £240 million of support from the UK government and from Welsh government. A big chunk of that project is based upon delivering enhanced skills to the local area, and losing a chemistry department from Bangor University at this point in time would be a significant mistake. So with that, I would like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Unless something extraordinary happens next week in Westminster, I don't intend to do another of these videos until the new year. But obviously, who knows? The way things are going in Westminster at the moment, I might have to do 2 of these next week. Thanks.